Hey there. So, this was my birthday week. I turned 33 this last Tuesday. And I wanted to do this video because I just wanted to share my process around what came up for me on this birthday and just what I've been going through to deal with it. So basically, today is Saturday, and I had planned to go to some hot springs with some friends, and really, it wasn't even my idea. It was my partner Kyle and my friend Numa's. And so I just let them take the reins and, go ahead and plan my birthday. And so I kind of knew this was going to bring up some stuff for me. I have a past of, I guess you could, what we call it is trauma around the birthday thing. And I mean, at this point, it's kind of funny for me, only because I have done some clearing around it, a lot of it. But what happened today obviously showed me that there was yet another layer to deal with, and so that's what I want to talk about today. I woke up and received some texts from basically everyone saying, it's either too cold to go to the hot springs today. I live in Denver, and it's like 6 degrees outside, and so people aren't really wanting to drive. There's also a snow weather alert, so people didn't want to drive in the weather. 3 people were sick, and so it really just ended up being me, my partner, and then 2 other people who were on the fence. And then we just decided, you know what, let's just wait for another day. Now, my adult self is like, yeah, it's really no big deal. The stuff happens and it's not personal, and it's really not personal. And, people love you, and it's not about you. It's not about you, your birthday, and who you are. Now, my little girl, this little girl that's still a part of me, still has a little trauma around the birthday topic. And what happened to my little girl was she had several birthdays. I, as a young girl, had several birthdays where people either didn't show up, and that's generally what happened. When I really think back to the trauma around this, it's basically about people not showing up and me making a story around that, meaning that people don't care about me enough to come to my birthday or show up for me, that I'm not good enough for people to show up. And so what happened this morning was when I got these texts, and I realized that we're probably not going to the hot springs today, and people aren't coming. One of my worst nightmares, my little girl's worst nightmare. Um, I got really sad, and at this point I know how to deal with these triggers, which I will go into more in another video about traumas and triggers. But for now, basically, when you get triggered, you are triggering a past trauma from either uh, in this lifetime, being a young child, or even a past life, for instance. And so this morning I got triggered and I started crying, and it was really, the cry that was coming out was like very young. I'd say probably like 7-year-old cry. My partner knows this process well because we both work through our triggers together as we both are integrating our traumas together, because we're growing together. And so he was able to hold me, and be with my little girl while I went through a process of just crying and releasing and letting the past pain of feeling like people don't care about me, they don't want to show up for me, I'm not good enough for people to come to my birthday party. And yeah, he just held me and soothed me and cooed me, and I'm able to do the same at this point. When these things happen, when you get triggered, the best thing you can do is try to be with this inner child. But the thing is we're multidimensional, and so we can be both this child in the moment, and we can hold space for this inner child and coo it back into, and soothe it back into this place of presence and ease and nurture. And by doing that, you're able to bring this past pain point or trauma into the present, into unity consciousness, which is where we are all on a path to. Another thing to note is that by allowing yourself to be in the moment with your inner child when it gets triggered, when you get triggered, you so for instance, in my example, by allowing myself to cry and really go through and be with the pain and the sadness that my little girl experienced at a younger age, um, it's we're actually clearing ourselves on a cellular level. We are clearing our akash. We are clearing and cleansing those old wounds and pains, and like I mentioned, bringing them into unity consciousness. And so it's important to allow ourselves to cry. Some people, if they need to express some anger, and doing that in a safe and contained way where it's not harping on, or where it's not infringing on someone else's rights or harming anyone. By allowing ourselves to do this, we are truly healing and bringing ourselves into this higher state of consciousness. And so it is important to honor all the parts of ourselves as they need to be expressed, as they need attention. And so I look at this part of me, this inner child, um, like a child. It is a child. It is an aspect of me that she got stuck at some point on along her journey, and this stuck energy is needing to move and wiggle and feel good and be. She needs to be told that she is safe now and that I've got her back, and we won't be experiencing that again because we have a new perspective. We understand that things aren't so personal. It's not a saga story anymore. It's not so dark anymore. And the reason that we have to go through these experiences is really because we incarnated into a third dimensional reality, most of us. Um, I can't speak for every soul. I'm not honestly sure of the exact process, but I do know that many of us came into this earth plane, incarnated into the third dimension, and many of us are choosing to move up now at this time. Now, for other people, they may be choosing to move into the fourth and fifth dimension and beyond at a later time. But just by incarnating into the third dimension, we have these experiences that are denser and lower in frequency. Um, not as they're not in the unconditional loving space for which we are moving into now, into 5D and beyond. And so just by being in this realm, in this dimension, in the third 3D, now I feel that we are all moving out of that into 4 and 5D, and kind of bopping in out of different dimensions as we are manifesting our realities. But just by being in the third dimension, let's just say as children, we we were bound to bump up against quite a few things that were going to be traumatizing. These are experiences that we don't deal with in pure positive energy when we're not in a human form. And so what we begin to realize is that in these lower dimensional realities, our parents, they weren't perfect. And like many of us believed that they were. Some of us believed they were like gods. They had the answer. They were the adults. So it would make sense as a kid that you would think that they knew and they were conscious of everything they were doing. And at some point, you along your path, you realize that that's just not the case, and that's okay because we are all growing, evolving, and learning. And so these moments that could have been more loving, more kind, more connecting, more forgiving, these need to be integrated as we move up into 4 and 5D and beyond. And so this really is just what I wanted to share with you today, my experience. This is one of many, many, many experiences I've had with triggers and traumas, and needing to integrate those traumas by being present with my inner child. And it's something that I really believe in and practice on a daily basis. Any moment I go into fight or flight, or what is it, fight, flight, or freeze. I have to deal with that because we cannot move into these higher, lighter, more effervescent dimensions and realities if we're lugging around these heavy old traumas and energy, stuck energy in our field. And that's just the case. And the reason why these things happen, like what happened with me today, is it's for our highest growth. It's a gift. It's a gift for us to really honor what's going on inside of us and see that there are still some stuck spots, some traumatized parts of us that are saying, hi, hey, hi, I need your attention. I'm so scared. I'm so sad. I'm so in pain. And so I just imagine this inner child just like pulling on your pant leg, like, I need you, please. And many people just shove that away, shove it down, say, shut up, get over it. And that's just not the way that is going to be generally best, I would say. Now, people have different ways that they need to work with their inner children. And so I'm not going to say that the way I deal with my inner child is exactly the way everyone's meant to. But I will say that you just have to remember that this part of you is an innocent young part of you who just, is lost and needs this higher perspective brought in. It wants to be taught, it wants to be shown that it is a safe world now. We're creating a safe world and that you're here for him or her. So I just want to loop back around and say that even though a lot of people would be sad if no one came to their birthday, but I just want you to know that my multidimensional self, anchored in my divine self, I am perfectly fine. And so really what this shows me and can show you is that those younger parts of ourselves, those are the ones who feel the separation, feel the sadness, feel the disappointment. And in the past, maybe I would have let my little girl or my inner child run the show the rest of the day. I might have been sad the rest of the day and been so hurt and locked myself in my room, to be honest. I mean, if I really think about how I might have dealt with it in the past, I might have shut myself off and cut other people out. I even had a little bit of the tendency this morning because, here I was going back into old patterning and I chose to integrate that trauma rather than go into the old patterning. And so I will say that tonight I plan to hang out with some friends and just, enjoy our time together in this warm house rather than going to the hot springs. And I will show up shiny and clear and feeling great because I gave myself that space earlier to be with my inner child, let her know that everything's good and everyone still loves her and that we can still make today a great day. And so I guess that is where I will end this video. And I just want to thank you for tuning in. I hope that this helped in some way. And I wish you a beautiful day ahead.